Hi, Dr. Flynn. Here is my presentation for the sampling API, sampling technology demo using IP API and Google Maps API, as well as a database. So essentially, what my platform is that I'm using XAMPP after our discussion on the email, and then I'm using Atom as my IDE for writing the code here. So I'll go ahead and start up from the beginning. I have XAMPP closed, so I'll go ahead and start it using the most recent version of XAMPP, which is 7.2. However, I noticed that there was an issue within XAMPP itself. It, for some reason, is showing up as version 3.2.2, but I'm fairly certain it's 7.2. So I'll go ahead and start Apache and MySQL. Um, yeah, let me step through the code, and then I can also talk about the PHP My Admin. I know we only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to try to go through this as fast as possible. So here's the code. I'll go ahead and go to localhost and load the page itself. So it's following your examples, pretty straightforward. There's no user interface here. It's not a website, so no styling or whatnot. On the top, we have the actual project name, the university, my name, and then I have a very simple hello visitor information here, which starts off as right here. So in the code itself, the first thing I'm doing is actually creating a database connection, and I'll go ahead and open up PHP my admin. So here's the PHP MySQL server running locally using XAMPP. And I created a simple database here called FSU sample API. Within that, I created a table called user location, which actually already took in the information here for the second time that I visited here after implementation. Under structure, I've created 5 columns: country, city, IP, browser, platform. Obviously, we could expand on this and add as many as needed for that particular, for whatever this project could be for a company or whatnot. So to go back, the code, here's the database connection information. I also like Pokemon, so username and password, but I don't use these, so no worries there. Making the connection, and then I'm actually what I'm doing is I've created a couple of variables here, key ones that I'll be using for the page itself. So instead of making callbacks, I'm storing them once here and then reusing them, and I'm also using these to pass them on to the database itself. Platform, browser type, user IP, user country, user city, pretty straightforward. Um, I'm actually populating this information here on the top about the browser, the platform, browser version, and whatnot, using a for each loop and going through the browser array that comes back, and at the same time updating the platform, my platform variable, as well as the browser type there. And then I'm getting the IP information using IP API. Again, iterating using that. I'm querying the individual pieces of variables that I want to store on this website, which are these 5 up here, through the query, country, city, and query is what they use for IP, I believe. Um, and then, yeah, inserting the data back up to the table here. I go back right here. This information is passed on to the database through simple SQL insert into the location. I'm not I'm not a PHP user. I don't use PHP. I've used it very little at my work. I'm primarily a user interface designer, and have been doing a lot more scripting and coding more recently. And we use C# and JavaScript. Very little bit of JavaScript, mostly C# for what we do, which is virtual simulation and training. Anyways, so it wasn't that bad to learn this stuff. I read documentations online and started implementing, and it wasn't too bad. And then I'm basically displaying all the information that I've gotten so far from browser cap as well as IP API to the visitor on the web page right here. So visitor from Germantown, that's where I live, my IP, public IP, platform, and the browser that I'm using. And then I'm using another for each loop here to go through the query array and print out the key pair value similar to how you have on yours. And then lastly, implementing Google API, which I had to create a key for. So in order to do that, I had to create a new Google Cloud Platform account and then get the key from here. I believe per month they allow you to use $200. They credit you $200 towards usage. Um, I'm fairly certain I will not go over that, and I can also cancel if needed. So, anyways, this is JavaScript portion here, and it shows you and pins the location of the person right here, so you can move around and do all sorts of standard Google Map stuff. So essentially, that's it. That's what I've been. I believe those were the requirements for the class. Um, I learned a lot, honestly. I don't at my work we do use APIs. Some of the senior programmers have implemented some of the Google APIs to integrate voice recognition and natural language processing (NLU) stuff. I wasn't part of that, so I'm not familiar with it. Therefore that's why this example really did help. Just in general, issues with APIs that I've learned, APIs change often. On my personal projects, I have used Google Drive's API. I was making a project management app a number of years ago, and I learned painfully how poor API documentation is, and this applies to APIs in general. I mean, Google being one of the biggest ones was guilty of this. It was hard. Its documentation can be all over the place and hard to navigate and difficult to use. Again, cost of APIs is something that you mentioned in your discussion as well. That's also a problem. It can very quickly cost a lot of money. Backward compatibility is another issue. APIs get outdated often, and your website could go down, unfortunately. And then security. You want to make sure the data is encrypted, it's secured properly, especially when you're dealing with user data, and you want to make sure your website as a whole is secured, because this information right here could be accessible if the site's not clear. And luckily, it's on my local machine here, so there's no issue. So that's essentially it. I believe I covered all of your requirements for this assignment. And like I said, I've learned a lot, and it was a little bit of work learning PHP. I haven't used it a whole lot, but I think this matches what your requirements were. All right. Thank you very much.